Now to our exclusive joint interview with Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil and his wife, Dr. Noor Abdallah. Last Friday, after 104 days in ICE detention, Khalil was released on bail after becoming a national symbol of the Trump administration's targeting of students protesting Israel's war in Gaza. His wife recorded the dramatic moment back in March when ICE agents in plain clothes arrested him. Dr. Abdallah was 8 months pregnant at the time, and she ended up delivering their son, Dean, while Khalil was behind bars. Khalil and Noor sat down with us for their very first joint TV interview since his release last week. Here's our conversation. You spent 104 days inside a notorious detention facility more than 1,000 miles away in Louisiana. What was that like for you on the inside? And what was it like for you so far away?
The moment you enter these facilities, or not even that, the moment that ICE apprehend you, you don't have any rights. You're expected to follow orders, not to know anything, and when they tell you to sign papers that you should sign. Otherwise, they would leave you in a room for a couple of hours, and then they would come and ask you to sign these papers. Inside the detention, the situation was sort of dire in terms of I shared a dorm with at least 70 other men. Very difficult stories. You would hear just heart-wrenching stories about individuals who have been in this country undocumented, but that's their only offense. They didn't do anything wrong. Some of them were picked up from their court hearings, from their ICE check-ins. And that's to a lot of people is just so confusing, because they said we were in the process of getting documentation, why we are being thrown here. And once again, no matter what the conditions are in such facilities, it's not necessary. Even if you had the best conditions, I'm being separated from my family. There was one individual literally attended his father's funeral on the phone. And he had to request from 70 people to be silent for at least 20 minutes so he can attend the service.
It sounds a bit like you were more worried about some of them than you were about yourself in the moment.
No, I was very worried about myself and about Noor. But it's just at that point, because I know I didn't do anything wrong, I knew that eventually I will prevail. I wasn't accused of any crimes, and even in the words of Rubio and this administration, they said my activities were legal.
Noor, you mentioned you were 8 months pregnant at the start of all of this. What was it like going through? I mean, I know firsthand how stressful pregnancy is in the best of circumstances. What was it like going through all of this on your own without your husband, the father of your child?
So we had discussed it a lot before he was taken. After he got detained, it was kind of like a race against the clock for me, at least. We had a very limited time, and I needed him to be back home. So it was a fight every single day, hoping that I'm going to hear something, hoping, they're going to let him out either on bail or whatever it is. Obviously, that didn't happen. But that was for the beginning of his detention. That was kind of my main focus, is I want him to be out. I want him to be there for the birth of our child. When it happened, I think I had gotten to a point where I kind of accepted it. This was a week before. I actually gave birth a week early. So I think I got to a point where I was like, he's most likely not going to be home. I started to accept that.
When you walked through the door with baby Dean by yourself,
yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah. That was harder than and the whole process before the hospital and the labor. That was the hardest moment for me, the most emotional I got. My mom and my sister were with me at the time. They dropped me off and they were getting things from the car. I was obviously postpartum. They don't want me carrying things. So I walked upstairs with Dean by myself. We walked into the apartment and it was like quiet. And it's not how I imagined walking into my apartment with my new baby. I don't know. I think all the emotions kind of hit me at that point. I just wanted him to be there. And
what was the feeling for you the first time you heard your son's voice, or maybe saw a picture? I don't know if you were able to FaceTime from prison, but what was the first interaction that you had? I mean, I know as a father, the first time you hold your son, it is a life-changing and a profound moment. But you had to do it from distance and not physically touching him.
I mean, I would start by, nothing could have prepared me for that moment. And I'm now dealing with the fact that, I lost like one of the divine moments with my wife and son. I mean, the first time was literally like 3:30 a.m. Moments after like the delivery. I just heard him crying, and that literally like got me in the heart. And I think it's just unbelievable that someone had the cruelty to take that moment from me. And I mean, all these were different. I was able to see him the day after. There's some sort of like a FaceTime app. Like it's so different, but there's some sort of service that I could see Dean. But it was very different from when the first time that I actually held him.
Mahmoud, you're already back out protesting, right? And now you know how much is at stake. You have a young son. You've seen what the state can do to you. How did you decide to come to that decision? Was this something you discussed together about whether you wanted to continue having some sort of public role in this fight?
I don't think there's a choice where your people are being slaughtered by the day, that you would remain silent or not. It's very uncomfortable. It's very risky. But also the moral price I would pay if I remain silent. I believe it's much higher. That's why I don't consider that now, well, like I'm out, let me go about my life. Because unfortunately my life is rooted in fighting this injustice. And I can't imagine myself just remaining silent while bombs are being thrown on the heads of my people.
I think people also ask that question a lot, and I how do you feel? And did you guys have that discussion? And, just to amplify what Mahmoud is saying, I don't think it's a discussion that needs to be had. I think, it's his moral compass, and it's a fight that we have to fight, and it's something that's very important, and everybody should be going out there and protesting and against this genocide.
Mahmoud, we're almost out of time, but I just want to ask you finally, I mean, given this experience that you've gone through and the journey that's still ahead, do you have any regrets or anything that you would have done differently, or have you at all soured about your American experience here? I mean, you are, as you said, a green card holder. Do you want to become an American citizen still?
Absolutely. And I absolutely don't have any regrets in opposing a genocide, which should be, once again, celebrated rather than punished. And this is why I'm fighting. I'm fighting so that I can raise my my children in America, in a country that I chose to be part of. And you've heard all these, like, you are anti-American or the un-American values, but like protesting is the very American thing you would do in this country. And this is why I would continue to fight, so that everyone lives in equality and dignity and prosperity.